Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here, welcome back to another Monster Hunter World video, and today is another very exciting day. It is Paris Games Week and they just dropped a brand new trailer, a trailer for a new map known as the Rotten Vale. Within this we get a look at some new monsters, some new gear, a new area. We get another look at the hub town Astera, but this time focusing on the guild hall, basically the multiplayer area where you can go to play with other people, and a few other important things as well. So in this video, we're going to break it all down for you guys. However, before I begin with that, before I dive into that, it is important to call out that there is also going to be a beta for Monster Hunter World. This will be your first chance to play the game ahead of the January 26th launch next year. The beta is going to be on December the 9th. Now, in this bit here, it specifically says only on PlayStation 4. Bear in mind, this was shown during a PlayStation live stream. It's unclear at this stage whether it will just be a timed exclusive PlayStation beta and will then later on come to Xbox One, or whether the beta will only be on PS4. I'm trying to find some clarification on that, so once I do get more beta details and I have the entire picture for you guys, I will update you most likely in a quick news video, but for the time being, just know that there will be a chance to play the game ahead of launch, and that is December the 9th. That is not too long away now. So again, stay tuned. I will let you guys know a little bit more about the beta once I have the full picture. But now, let's talk about this trailer. Of course, if you do enjoy this, do find it helpful, then like would be super appreciated, and comment down below and let me know if you guys are super hyped. So, to begin with, this is, as mentioned, a brand new map to add to the existing roster. We now have the Ancient Forest, the Wildspire Waste, the Coral Highlands, and the Rotten Vale. And continuing with the theme that we kind of got with Coral Highlands, this is another area that looks distinctly different to anything we've ever had before. This one is a very dark, sinister looking map. There's a lot of bones all around the ground. Kind of reminds me of the area in Monster Hunter Generations when you drop in to fight Nakarkos, the sort of bone graveyard. There's a lot of this sort of like brown, what I imagine is stenchy smoke going around, as well as, you know, corpses, carcasses. Basically, it's a very grim looking area, but it is very different, again, to any of the other areas we've seen so far. You've got the very kind of dense jungle in the Ancient Forest, you've got the barren Wildspire Waste, you've got the really vibrant Coral Highlands, and now we've got the very kind of smelly, grim, sinister looking Rotten Vale. Now, moving on from there, we then going to look at some brand new monsters. Bear in mind, at the time of making this video, I don't have names for any of these new monsters. So if I do find them out in the meantime, I will update the description, update the comments to let you guys know what we do currently know. But to begin with, these are some smaller monsters. We, of course, see some bones around. And pay attention as well to that sort of smoke looking stuff at the back, or the sort of brown stench coming off the ground, because I think that's important a little bit later on, but we'll get to that in just a moment. We of course see the hunter here standing beneath some of these bones. That probably gives you guys an idea as to the scale of some of these things in the map. It's obviously going to be a very, very big map, but the first thing that happens following on from there is this monster that rolls in, which I'm going to call Bone Uragan, because when you actually see it in combat a little later, it seems to share a lot of kind of similarities with Uragan. Now, for those of you guys that aren't Monster Hunter players, if you're new in Monster Hunter World, then Uragan is a big monster that has like a big chin. It rolls around in sort of cartwheels, and it's something we've seen in previous games, but this one here looks like it's covered in tar, covered in bones, looks very, very threatening. On top of that, we have another new monster here that appears to have taken out what looks like Tsitsiyaku, so this is, assuming there's kind of a fight between those, then it's obviously going to be the apex predator in that situation. Not much to note about it. It's got fangs, it's a reptilian looking creature. It seems to be a lot of these sort of reptile looking creatures this time around, which I'm completely cool with because it's a nice kind of contrast to some of the stuff we've had before. However, jumping forward from there, we then get a look at the third new monster, this very aggressive, red, scaly looking four-legged beast. Again, massive fangs. There seem to be kind of a bigger number of these sort of four-legged, almost beast-like monsters, as opposed to, you know, previous games we've had like a lot of wyverns, so that's really cool, but again, this one looks very, very threatening. We then get a bigger look at the Rotten Vale itself. I mentioned before this sort of yellow fog, this stench looking kind of thing. I don't know whether it'll actually have an effect on the hunter. We see here him kind of covering his face, almost coughing, so it could well be one of those things where when you're in certain parts of the map, maybe your health depletes, maybe you need to kind of have a potion to counteract it, but that is sort of something worth calling out. We then get a look at a bigger version. Those monsters we saw at the beginning, this appears to be the bigger version of that one. Again, very sort of reptilian looking, walks on four legs, fangs at the front, and we actually find out a little bit later in this trailer that those fangs can also paralyze you if you get bitten by it. In this scene here, we get a demonstration of another one of the environmental traps. You can see that the hunter fires something out of his slinger and then clearly detonates something on the ground. It wasn't too clear to see exactly what, but that then basically creates this big smoke cloud. So I'd imagine you can then use this to, you know, either damage or potentially stun the monsters. You fire it out, they get stuck in it. much like, say, if you kick the frogs in the ancient forest, they shock the monsters, or you hit the flash flies to blind them, those sort of things. There are plenty of these environmental things you can interact with. We then get a look at the Coral Highlands. We see Tsitsiyaku doing the flash to bring down some wyverns. We actually see in this situation that the Sword and Shield user can just straight up stand in front and pull their shield up to block the flash, as opposed to, say, in the past where you would try and turn your back to the flash. This time around you can just straight up stand there and block it, so that's kind of cool. Jumping over though, we get a better look at this bone Uragan. We can see it digging into the ground. We see a Lance user here wearing a brand new set of armor. This reminds me quite a bit of, say, some of the bug type armor from the past. Not entirely sure at this stage what monster it comes from, whether it will be a specific monster or whether it will be a set that you kind of get by gathering bug parts. But it is very, very cool. I'm liking those shoulder spikes as well. Jumping over to the next scene, we then see this red monster dragging what looks like Legiana. Legiana being the one from the top of the Coral Highlands, previously being the kind of monster that basically was the apex predator. It would beat Paolumu, it would beat Tsitsiyaku, it would basically beat anything that kind of came up to its nest. Now, this one looks a lot darker than before, so it could well just be like a corpse that's lying around, or it could well be that it flew a little bit too close to the Rotten Vale, but either way, it has those matching kind of horns, so it looks like that monster may well just be dragging Legiana down there for, you know, its lunch, and it kind of pairs in nicely because the next scene actually shows you Legiana, so you can of course see those horns on top. You can see it fighting with Paolumu, so I reckon that probably is what that one is. We then get another look at that reptilian creature I spoke about before, the one with the paralyzing fangs. You get to see the smaller versions of them there. So those ones, using what we know from the ancient forest, those smaller monsters, you would probably, I'd imagine, be able to tame them using the Palico taming mechanic, because you are able to, provided you learn the language of the monsters in that area from the wild cats, from the Grimwalkian, then you could of course tame them in select situations. So it might well be that the smaller ones can actually be quite useful to us. We then get another look at Tsitsiyaku. We get a look at, again, the bone Uragan doing the kind of typical move where it slams its jaw down on the ground to kind of create a shockwave. We get a further look at the big red monster. You can actually see just how big it is. When we first saw it, it looked pretty threatening, but didn't necessarily look like one of the bigger monsters. But with the hunter standing here, you get a clear look at just how big it is, and also potentially a glimpse at maybe an intro sequence, given that the hunter is here in what looks like a cinematic scene. So this could well be maybe the first time we meet the monster. Then jumping forward to this scene, this is where you get a look at the fangs basically paralyzing the hunter. You can see that they jump forward while the main monster is screaming. They bite the hunter, you get paralyzed, you get knocked on the ground, which is of course going to be pretty lethal. After that, a very quick scene of course, a longsword user trying to pick a fight with Tsitsiyaku and getting blinded. We then get another look at a greatsword user going toe-to-toe with that big red ferocious beast in what looks like a really, really cool area. Now this one here, even though we've only seen that red monster typically in the Rotten Vale, this does look like kind of an underground area in the Coral Highlands. You can of course see what appears to be a lot of kind of underwater foliage, lots of corals and stuff. So this is probably like a cave further down in the Coral Highlands. So probably nice to sort of see that you can see that monster there. We get some gameplay of a hunter getting beaten down by Legiana, and of course also fighting Paolumu, showing its dominance in the kind of monster hierarchy. Speaking of which, when looking at the red monster versus the bone Uragan, even though the bone monster is bigger, it appears in this situation that the red monster is giving it a run for its money. And also we see in this instance that it takes on Paolumu in a pretty brutal way. It's basically just got its head in its mouth. So this monster, even though it might not be that big, is actually pretty threatening. So cannot wait to fight that, and more importantly, can't wait to see what its armor and weapons look like. However, taking a step away from the maps and the monsters for the time being, we now get a look again back in Astera at the hub town, but this time to an area we haven't seen before. This is the Gathering Hall hub. This is basically where you would go if you want to play multiplayer online, if you want to party up with people. You would go here, you would see them, you would post quests, that sort of thing. And while it is only brief, we do get a look at a few important things. So this is of course where you would find your quest desk. You can see there are two different people there. Now typically, for those of you guys that haven't played Monster Hunter before, whenever you go to the online space, there's normally a place to go for your general quests and also a place to go for arena quests. So I'm willing to bet those are the two NPCs you'll find there. We then get a look at the kind of wider area. It's really, really nice to see this. We do know for a fact that you can have 16 players in here. While your team size can only be 4 when you go on a hunt, you can have 16 players in the hub. So that does mean they can be quite vibrant, quite lively. It's really, really nice to sort of like see the area. You can see the quest board over there. There's another NPC right in the middle. Not entirely sure what that's for just yet, but you know, we'll find out very soon. Also pretty exciting, we did get confirmation from this in an interview a little while ago, but arm wrestling is back in Monster Hunter World. It had an absence in Generations and Double Cross, but it is indeed making a return. Again, this is a great way of kind of passing some time. When you're in this hub, you can challenge someone else to an arm wrestling match on these barrels, which is very, very cool. Interestingly, this armor here being worn by this female hunter, I believe that is the same armor set we saw from the dual blade users way back in the original weapon videos, but typically in that one the male hunter was shown nearer the front. It was a little bit harder to see the female one, but we did see at the time that the female armor had goggles on, so I'm pretty sure that is what it looks like from the front. Pretty cool armor set. Back to the Coral Highlands, we get a look at this area where you can basically use this lift, this kind of grappling hook, to ride these lines up to the top. So again, more ways to just traverse the environment. We know in the Coral Highlands there are the slipstreams, the wind streams that you can basically fly up using your glider mantle. There are of course vines that you can swing off of and jump down, but we now know there's also this kind of cool zip line that you can use to get up and I would assume back down. After that, we get a couple of scenes of just hunters fighting different monsters. This part here, pretty cool. You get to see in the Rotten Vale another example of things in the environment you can use. Much like in the Ancient Forest, you can shoot the boulder in the middle of the forest to drop it on a monster's head. In this instance, you can shoot one of those bones and it falls down like a big spear. So again, imagine dealing some pretty nasty damage. And then to round it all out, this final scene here, we see there is a monster beneath this pile of bones. We don't actually get a look at it in detail. You can see these kind of smaller creatures going around and it grabs one of them. It's got a scaly looking arm, it's got these claws. I imagine by the kind of structure it's probably another four-legged creature, but all we get to see at the end of the trailer is something coming out of the pile of bones. We don't actually get to see what it looks like, so I imagine that's the sort of thing we'll find out in whatever next trailer they reveal. So for the time being, that is pretty much the end of the trailer. The only other thing worth calling out actually comes after the credits, so to speak, and that is some PlayStation exclusive DLC. And for those of you guys that are Horizon Zero Dawn fans, there will actually be the option to play as Aloy in the game. You can get this really cool palico gear as well, making your cat basically look like one of the little, I forgot what they're called, it's been a while since I played Horizon, but basically those little raptor looking creatures. So that is actually pretty cool. I would assume this would basically be a collaboration armor set that you would then go off and do a quest to earn, or it could well be similar to, say, the red samurai gear, and it'll actually act as a skin that you can basically put over the top of stuff. That much we'll have to wait and see, but for the time being, if you're a fan of Horizon Zero Dawn and you're getting Monster Hunter, then you could also use that as well. So, for the time being, that's it. That is your breakdown of the most recent trailer. There will of course be more stuff to talk about very soon. There may well be a few things that I might have missed, so if so, expect some follow-up videos very, very soon. But for the time being, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.